Do you have any time in your career, have you had anyone, I suspect you have come back and that you've literally saved their life and come back at a later time and talked with you about their experience with you and surgery?
I'm glad you asked that because it's going to cheer me some. Have you heard of NFL player Chad Lewis, BYU coach at the present time?
Yes.
Okay, now he was really a big name. I think he played for Philadelphia. Anyway, I got a call about 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when all of these things happen. I got a call from the ER doctor whose name was Hooker. He just went by Hooker. And he said, Doug? I said, yes. He said, this is Hooker. Put down the phone and run to the ER. Got something, hung up the phone. And so I just threw on my scrubs because that's mostly what I wore anyway. I exceeded every speed limit because Hooker never lied. If he said come now, he meant a few minutes ago. So I rushed in there and I ran in, and Chad Lewis was standing there, and this man who I knew, who was his father. And I looked at him and I said, he's got a big blood clot or a hemorrhage. So I said, we have two choices. He will die in the next 5 minutes, or we will go in and operate on him with about a 5% chance to save him. And Chad said, go. And he said, and I'll help you. And we started on down the hall. And as we were going, I was shaving his head as we were running down the hall, and Roger's heart stopped. So I tore open his shirt and started pounding on his chest, and he came back. We ran into the operating room. I finished just enough shaving so I didn't get a lot of hair in the wound. I took a sopping wet iodine sponge and rubbed it on his head, and then made this incision. And as fast as I could go, I clipped everything. I did a big craniotomy because it was a big lesion, and the brain and blood clot and everything started pouring out. And as fast as I could go, I dug and sucked and moved blood clot out until finally I had this non-bleeding, clean area. But it looked like somebody had almost put a softball in there. And I thought, I don't know if the brain can ever fill that back up again. And then I sewed him up as best I could. I left the bone out so that he'd have room to swell. And then I took him back, finished up in the recovery room, went out to talk to them. And I said, I don't know whether he'll wake up from this. We had this horrendous blood clot. What he had done is awakened in the night with a stroke, a hemorrhagic stroke. And Chad and the mother said, and this is always real helpful to hear, they said, we know you did your best, and we appreciate what you did, because we know that many just wouldn't do that, wouldn't want to take the blame for having somebody die. And I'm not telling tales out of school. Chad is a very ardent member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and an absolute true believer, as is his mother. And they said, we believe that if there's anything possible, that God will save him. And I said, well, it's up to God now, because I've done all I can do. And then I slept on the floor in case anything bad happened. And it was truly amazing to me, and this may sound small, but woke up in the morning, and Roger's funny. He told a little joke to one of the nurses. And I found it absolutely hilarious. I can't remember even if it was a good joke, but the very fact that he could think enough to tell a joke and they could talk enough. And over the course of about 2 years with rehab, he got back to, he was practicing medicine. He had a left hemiparesis, weakness on the left arm and leg. But he and I have kept in touch with each other for all those years. And the last time was about 2 weeks ago. I talked to him. Chad, who thought it was a miracle and thought I was a miracle worker, wrote up a chapter in his book. There's a book that he's written that you might find interesting about his career and life. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was more than a bit overdone. I was the saint and Hippocrates all rolled into one. But I get joy every time I talk to him. And just recently I sent him a copy of, well, there's 6 books of Saga of a Neurosurgeon, because they all wanted to get an idea of what goes on with neurosurgeons. Their entire communication with me that night before we got to the operating room was less than 5 minutes. And so they wanted to know what filled in the gap after that. So that's probably my most fascinating, heartwarming case.